So my name is Madrid Johnson. Hello again.
Hello.
And today what I'm going to do for you is I want to talk to you about hair color, particularly hair color on ethnic hair. Okay, now ethnic hair doesn't necessarily mean only black hair. It just basically means multi-textured, multi-typed hair, okay? And you can get multi-textured and multi-typed hair on any ethnicity. It can be white hair, it can be Latin hair, Asian hair, Iranian hair. So we're just talking about textured hair, okay? One of the problems that we have in the industry, especially with students, how many students are in the house? Pretty much everybody here? Professionals? Professionals, great. This class today is like a ask me and I'll try to answer you, or we'll collaborate together to come up with the right answer when you're dealing with specific types, meaning a person that has a specific type of hair that's hard to color, hair that's already chemically processed, and you want to try to make sure, and she wants to wear color, and she wants to wear a nice vibrant color, but that fear that goes in with hair relaxing or permanent waving and stuff like that, and then to do color, it's like a gray area for a lot of people. And what happens is you actually talk yourself out of being able to make service dollars in the salon. You agree? Because you really just don't understand how to do the service. So we want to talk about different services today and different color techniques, levels of color, when to, when not to, particularly again on chemically treated hair. That's what we're talking about, okay? Color on chemically treated hair, multi-textured, multi-typed hair. So I've got a couple of mannequins that I pre-colored for you, using some different techniques on them, and we're going to go through them and talk about the techniques and talk about how we arrived at these colors. These mannequins started off just like this, in this color, and they already have been treated because they're mannequins, of course, so there's some stuff that has been done to the mannequin. It makes it a little harder to work with, but it makes it better for us to learn, because if you can make it work on a mannequin, you should be able to make it work on a person's head that much easier, okay? Because these have been treated, they're decuticalized, so there's really no cuticle in this hair anymore. And so they get rid of the cuticle, because if you try to do a weave or a mannequin, you can't get all the strands of hair that runs down so the cuticle's going up and down all through the hair. So they use a solution to get rid of that cuticle and smooth the hair more. So the chemical processes that you put on mannequins sometimes don't come out true to color. So for our class today, that actually helps us to be able to understand color. Because the first thing that I'm going to tell you when you want to create custom color is sometimes you got to get rid of what you have on the hair to start with, especially if a person has been wearing previous color. Say the lady comes into the salon, she colors her hair at home, she goes to the store, she gets a brand that she can take home and put it in her hair, and she repeats that process by putting the color all over her whole head every time. So the hair, based on her natural level and based on the level of color that she's putting in, and then based on the developers that she's using, which in most of those kits have a booster in there with that developer, and developer is pretty high volume in order to take that hair from a level 1 or 2 to a level 6, 7, 8, and 9 in one application, right? So the hair actually, the product actually has bleach and boosters in it. So what I'm saying is, she comes to you now and her hair, she has a new growth hair, let's say she's a level 2 or 1, it's very dark hair, level 1, 2, or 3, the new growth. And I know nowadays you can wear hair that has darker levels. When I was coming up, they called that roots, and we used to do touch-ups a lot. We made our money doing hair touch-ups, right? But now that's popular, so now you got to come up with techniques so you don't tell the truth, and the hair darker on the bottom and then lighter as you go out. Well, hopefully when we finish this class, you'll understand how that works as well. So she comes to you and she has her hair she has a natural level. Then the hair in the length has all kind of different levels and all kind of different tones on the hair, right? It's just hair that's like, whoa, what's going on with all this color, right? And what we do as hairdressers, or because we don't really understand, we go into our color chart and we choose, and you and the lady sit down, you do a consultation, you find a nice color, and then we go back and we mix. We're going to use a 20 volume or whatever, and then we're going to come back and we're going to put that on her hair, and then we're going to hope that it looks like it looks in the book, right? But what happens is when you put that color on her hair, regardless to the level of developer that you put on there, when you put the color on the hair, the color is going to work. It's going to lift or deposit based on what's on the hair already, right? So now you got hair that has a lighter shade, but it's still blotched. Still got all these different colors in it, right? It's just another shade or another level. And it's multi-shade. It's like a variance of different shades in there. So the first thing that I would tell you to do is make all of this hair one color, right? Now, you would put one application on the person's head and try to charge her for a color application, and it's not going to work well. There's a price point. But when you're doing custom color or corrective color, you're going to automatically know that you're going to have way more than one application. So that means you're going to base your service on what you're doing. How many applications you're doing to get to where you want to go. A lot of color processes, especially with these ombres and these balayages and all of this stuff, that's not one application. Sometimes you got 4 and 5 applications of color to make that color work based on what you want. So the first thing that you want to do, and the first thing that I did with either one of these mannequins, they started out like this, is to make all of this hair one color. Even this mannequin is not all the same. It's the same level pretty much, but different tones. Okay? So I made this hair and I used a lightener. I used I think on this one, to bring it up, I brought it into a lighter shade. I think I used like a 30 volume developer and I think a level 9 or something like that, right? Because I know I wanted this to bring this hair up, right? But I know I was going to have different shades in there, so I had to get it light enough or even that it had one even tone before I actually went in to start doing my service. So this hair has to come up. So if you want it to go, if you want her to go to a level from this to a level 8, 9, or 10, you're going to have to process this hair first. So you're going to lighten this hair. Okay, now, you can lighten it if the hair is in decent shape. You can lighten it with a 20 volume, 30 or 40 volume. But on ethnic hair or on multi-textured, multi-typed hair, you don't have to use that higher developer. You're going to use a lower volume developer and you're going to allow the color process to lift slower. So you can go with just maybe a 20 volume developer and a level 10 color, right? And let it process, and it's going to bring the hair up into the area that you want to start doing your service. Now, once you've gotten this hair one color, right, then you'll start your color technique. So on this hair, once I lifted this hair up, I just kind of parted the hair across the top of the head was one section, and then the top was another section. I lifted the hair enough here that I can deposit the color that I want, right? But the hair on the top, I wanted it a little lighter, so now since I got it at a certain level, now I can lift this hair to where I want it to go. Make sense? So it's a process. So this was lifted up until about a level 7, all of it, after I made it all one color. Then I deposited what I wanted in here. So I didn't have to use a lifting 10. I can use a 10 volume developer or anywhere from 10 down to just deposit, no lift. So that's going to just give me color, right? Then the hair on the top section, I used a level 10 again, but I used a 30 volume developer. So now that brings this up to that point, okay? So now I have both of these two top colors done. So then I went in and added just some little bit of highlights with a different color here. I just took the section out in the front and I wove in another color that now I just deposited. I didn't have to lift anymore. Makes sense? Tone the whole head. So how can you tone the hair that has all these different colors in it, right? And keep it all in the level that you want it to be. I use a level 10 again, and I used a 10 volume developer, and I kind of washed the whole head at one time. So I didn't take time to put it section by section. I just mixed the color, took it to the shampoo bowl, and massaged that in so it was even, and then combed it so it was evenly distributed, and only let it sit on the head about 6 minutes, right? And when you rinse that out, then the hair is smooth, the color is smooth, the cuticle is smooth, you got great hair color. Okay, so now that process can apply to just about any color that you want to do when you're trying to get various colors in the hair. Same thing with this doll. The first thing you had to do is make this hair all one color again. Now you're going to determine what that is. Maybe you want the hair to be rich, auburn-like, okay, with that nice rosy, woodsy brown, right? You can bring the hair to that level. You can use a level 5 mahogany or something, right, with a 20 volume developer and make all of the hair that level first. Then you would go in after that and start your color application. So you can take this level up now, or you can take it down lower. You can do highlight techniques in it, whatever it is, because at that point, your creativity starts taking over. Because now you can see all kind of different variances that you can do with this doll or with your client once you have an even playing field. So basically, before you even start your color services, a lot of times you have to tone the hair in the beginning. Most of the time we tone, I got your question is coming through. Most of the time we tone at the end, right? But in this case, sometimes when the hair is different colors all doing the length, you got to tone the hair first. Or get that level all to one place first, and then start your color technique. What's your question?
I was going to say, like, if you deposit the color, will it make it harder for the hair to lift?
No, because in the top where this is lighter, you see this is, you have, how many colors do you see, first of all? How many colors do you see? It's about 5 colors in there. But when they all come together, it looks like one color with a little bit of highlight. But this has been lightened more on the top, and then we went back and deposited too. So this level, remember we brought it up higher to like a level 7, I think it was, and we used an orange base color here, right? And we deposited, so I didn't have to use a developer. I use a developer, but you can use a semi-permanent color. You don't have to always use permanent color that you use in developers with. You can use a semi-permanent color or a color stain. You know what I mean by a color stain? Like a fight of Vivits or whatever they call, right? And that's going to give you that pop. But right here, I had to lift this hair some more on the front. You see, so what I'm saying is when you start off, that's like making an even playing field. So once it's even, now you start your technique. Say we did this on a lady's hair. What would something like this cost? It's going to cost based on the different developments. You got 3 colors in here that you can see. Then you got a nice strong base color here. Then you got your bottom. So I mean that's like 4 or 5 applications sometimes. So this is why these people, Hollywood colorists or whatever, are making $1,000 on the color. But it's no different than what you can do yourself. Now you may or may not be able to get that much color, but for me in my salon to do this service, this would cost her about $325, $350, because you're charging her based on this custom blend. Nobody's going to have their hair like this. When people see her on the street and she's walking down the street, and then they say something or they don't, But when they look at it, they don't see everything that's there. But then say that she hits the corner and the wind blows, and then that hair, then it's like, whoa, what's going on under there? So you're gonna charge based on the levels that you do. So if you had it darker, remember I said that when you start off your service on hair that has all of these colors, if you don't level the color out to start, it's not going to be right in the finish. So you can go with a deeper, darker tone and then start your lifting or highlight process from there. Okay, it'll still lift. Now, I was telling you earlier on relaxed hair or sometimes over curly hair, the hair is more porous. So the more porous the hair is, the quicker it's going to take whatever service you're doing. So where we make a mistake and start breaking hair is because we think when you're going to highlight or lift, you got to have a 40 or 30 volume developer. It's too much. On chemically treated hair or on ethnic hair, you don't even have to use developer. You can use distilled water. A lot of times I don't even use developer. I go and I get some distilled water and I mix it the same way I would the proportion. And then I don't mix my bleach where it's really runny. I mix my lightener where it's pasty, not too clumpy, but not thin, so it stays where I put it. Or and if you're foiling with your foil pack, then you don't have to worry about hot spots under the foil package. You know what I mean by hot spots? Mm-hmm. You know how you have this line that's like, oh my God, how you gonna get that tiger stripe out? Well, sometimes that's because the bleach is too thin. Your mix is too thin because ordinarily when you're applying it, you always resting your hand on the hair. So every time you touch the hair, that product is seeping out of the foil. And that's how you get those hot spots. And then I have a technique that I use for my foiling technique. Did I bring the foils? I didn't bring my foils. You see in the front how you can see the different colors, but they look really thin and they almost blend into the next section. The way that I do that, now I don't have a problem with a basic foiling technique, you know, when it looks really streaky. But for me, that's not going to give me a natural, because if you look at this doll, it looks like that hair color is growing right out of her scalp. You see what I'm saying? You don't see any lines of demarcation. You see a nice blend. You see the differences, but it doesn't look shocking. Yeah, there's a flow. So what I do, I have a technique that I use, and when you and we have a training center in Oakland. I didn't bring my board to take everybody's information, but maybe we can pass a piece of paper around, and I can get you on my mailing list. But we use a technique where when you take your section, you don't do this. We come into the section and we use a small circular movement. So now when you bring the hair up before you put it in the packet, you see there's no pieces that are uniform. So when you add your packet or your color or your bleach or with your lightener, when it's done, it's not going to be uniform. Because if you look, you can see thinner pieces, little thicker pieces. You can see through it. It's more natural. So if you do your technique like that, and even when you put your foil, I'm sorry I don't have a foil, but when you put your foil in the packet, it sits right in the part. So you can put your bleach all the way to the edge of the foil, and if the consistency of the bleach is not too thin, then it'll stay exactly where you want it, and the hair will look just like this. You see how you can see lighter, darker hair, but it doesn't look, you can't see any uniform shocking, streaky pieces. So for me, that makes the hair look more natural. So whichever way she combs her hair, you can see technique. So we teach that instead of doing an ombre, then you have that one level all over the head, right? So now you can go in with your technique, your foiling technique, because the foils are going to lay on each other. And you can paint where you want to start this ombre. And you're never going to use, you're not going to do this. Because when you put your color on like this, when you're trying to create techniques that are flowing, this is going to create a line of demarcation, right? So you're going to come in and you use the sides of the brush or at an angle with the brush. So now you have, since we've made this hair, say a level, say your ombre is going to start with a level 5 and go all the way out to a 10 with blonde tips, right? We've made the hair, all the hair is level 5. Now we can start a highlighting technique. So you're going to, of course, use a higher volume developer where you want the hair to be lighter, and a less volume developer where you don't want it as light. So if this is one level, let's say I want this to come up, I may use a 20 volume developer in here so it can gradually come in. I'm going to come away from the scalp, paint the area here. Then I'm going to get my next color mixture, which may be a 30 volume or something, on whatever that color is, and then I'm going to continue that stroke right into the section that I've just done. So it's not like a blunt line. You're making a succession in that area so you can see the hair is blending as it comes out. And then that final tip area on the bottom, I can use my highest, whatever I'm going to use, and I would paint into the section that I started and then come out on the end. So now I got 4 colors in that ombre, and it looks smooth. Techniques, whatever you're going to do, you may slice at a vertical angle. Then you're just going to use thinner sections, and you can use multiple colors, but your sections are going to be thinner. And then you may have 4 colors you're going to use, and you're going to paint that section, and then you're going to slice another thin section. Your foil is going to lay here, so once you start the bottom, you put a foil on top of the application that you just put. Now this is going to lay on top of that clear foil on the top. You're going to paint that with your secondary color, whatever it may be. You may have the darker color at the bottom, then the lightest color, then the middle color, so forth and so on. Another thin section that lays on the foil that's already there, and you add your other section, and then when that hair is finished, then it looks like one shade until she moves. And that's when you see all of that great highlight. This is how they're doing these services in these high-end salons, and there's no reason that we can't do them in whatever level salon you're in. It doesn't matter. We're professionals, and if we take time to just realize what we're doing and keep principle before practical, keep principles before you go into things that's not practical, then you'll have great color every single time.
Would you have for for example, when you do different colors like that, like a section red and then some highlights blonde, what can you do to help keep the blonde and not have the red bleed into?
Get the red on first.
And then
Get the red on first. Once the red, that's what I was just saying. You get that red on first. Even if it's another color, if it's darker in here and you want it red in here, get this red in first. Then you can go back and do your blonde.
Would you section out what you wanted blonde?
You could.
Right.
Now this is what I do too. Now look at this. This is kind of a reverse. Let's say you get your blonde in where you want your blonde to be, and then you're foiling in as you foil, like maybe you may want red, 2 different packets. The lower packet you're foiling, and you have your red in there, right? The next one you foil, and you don't put any color on it. You just foil your blonde and make it tighter. And when I do that, I roll it, I fold it, and then I roll it, and I bend the end so that piece of that
Blonde.
foil is sitting on the scalp like my finger. So no color's getting on that at all while your red is processing. You see what I'm saying? So now and then that's how you can get like a red and maybe a red-orange under your red, you see, because the level red that you have is going to be, that whatever red you want, but that secondary color, once you rinse the red, is going to bleed just a little bit onto that lighter shade. So now you got a deep red, a kind of a not as red, orange like, because it's, when you gold and red makes orange, right? You got to always remember your primary colors, red, blue, and gold. So when you're rinsing that red on that lighter hair, it's going to bleed a little bit. It's not going to get as deep as the red is, but it's going to bleed a little. So now you got red and you got kind of a pastel orange, and then you got your blonde that's in the package that's still blonde. So now you got blonde hair, red hair, orange hair. It just, you just think about it, you know what I mean? And see, the thing that works for me is that she can't go to the store and put no box on her head no more. And she can't go to anybody else to get the same technique if it's something she likes. And say somebody said, oh, I'll do it for you for cheaper or whatever. Okay. She gonna get over there and give them cheaper, less money, and the hair is gonna be a mess. And what's she gonna have to do?
Color correction. Back to you.
Then you gotta charge even more money to correct it, to get it back right again. Yeah. So now, how do you go back and touch up that hair for somebody that wants to have that same technique? You don't really have to do the whole head, because you can do your new growth using the same technique. You got to still lift the base, right? And you still have to go in and do whatever highlight you're doing on your mid-strand. And then you can just tone the rest to make it pop again. So color is fascinating. I mean, I love color, and I especially love color on black women, because typically they're not able to wear color like that because the hair is, if it's relaxed. If it's natural hair, you got a little more room, just like white hair with no chemicals on it, you got a lot of room for color. Well, black hair that doesn't have any chemicals on it, you got room too, but remember the hair is more porous. So you still have to watch the developers. On white hair or Asian hair or something like that, you may be able to use a 40 volume developer. On black hair, even if it doesn't have a relaxer, it's still more porous, and it may not lift as even. That's why it's important to make it one color first. That applies to any hair. But then you may only use a 20 volume developer instead of a 40 volume, or a 10 volume instead of a 30 volume, because it's going to lift anyway with bleach. And remember, you can use distilled water.
In what case do you use the distilled water?
Say you got somebody that the integrity of the hair is just not as well as you would want it to be, but you can still do a technique without damaging her hair, then I would use a distilled water instead of, and I never ever use more than 10 volume developer when I'm lifting relaxed hair. 10 volume is as high as I go. And it works a little slower, but you're gonna know it's gonna jump up there, but it's not like a 40 volume that's just bam. So a 10 volume is gonna do in 10 minutes what a 40 volume would do in 2 minutes.
But it would explode the hair.
It'll explode the hair. The cuticle is going to be shot to heck. It's going to be terrible. We have a product in my relaxer system. I wasn't able to bring all that stuff over here. It's called Replenish. And what Replenish does, it shrinks the hair strand and it flattens the cuticle. So when we do conditioners on ladies that have high lift bleach and stuff like that, we use that Replenish about every 6 weeks, every 4 to 6 weeks. Because when you have bleach blonde hair and it looks dull like that, it's because of cuticles. We see it all the time. And it looks frizzy, it looks dry, it looks dull, because the cuticle's open. So if you can flatten that cuticle out, the shine you're getting is just the transparency on your hair. It's not even the color, it's the cuticle. If the cuticle is smooth, you're going to get that color from underneath is where that shine is coming from. Color questions?
I have a client that brings in her daughter. She's 4, now she's 5. she has some bleacher hair. Is that too young? I know not too young. Is that hard for the child?
Well, you know, the hair is not, I don't think the total integrity of the hair is there yet because that child is very young. Give you an example. We have in the black salons and the ethnic market, multi-textured hair. We call it good hair on little kids that got this hair. It's like massive curly hair, but it's beautiful. But they don't know how to comb it, and then the kid is too tight a curl, and now we're in a natural revolution where it's great on a person that has that natural esteem, but on a little girl and all her friends, especially if it's a little mixed girl and then all her friends are white girls, she wants straight hair too. So you see her with this hair pulled back really tight, but in the back of it is like what? So what we do is we texturize the hair. We don't use the relaxer to make the hair all straight. We just use the relaxer to remove so much of the curl to now it's more of a wave than straight hair. Because I think even in that, it's too soon to process hair. So to answer your question, I think it's too soon to do it, but what I would do is drop down on the developer. Use like maybe a 10 volume developer. So once you're done, the hair won't be too exploded and it'll be still easy to comb. Then you're gonna have to use a lot of moisture